BATJAC JW here. This is the 1911 World War II rundown. In this case, we're going to look at the Colt. This is a Colt made in 1942. We looked up the serial number, and I believe that's what the date we came across was 1942. So this is definitely a really cool piece of history. If you're like me and you love World War II kind of history, this for me is the ultimate. I mean, this is pure just American handgun right here. This is it. Colt, American company. And it's got the wear, it's got the character, and it's got a color that is definitely I've not seen it replicated. I mean, that's just due to time and Parkerizing and Cosmoline and you name it, and all the patent dates and everything. So, all right, we're going to run through this beautiful baby right here, the war baby, as it may, of World War II awesomeness. Okay. We are going to run through this thing. Okay, so I'm not I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not a seriously, historian on these things or anything like that, but I did definitely go and kind of educate myself a little bit, and that's what I hope to pass on in the video a little bit. A couple of marks that you can hit and look at when you're looking at these things, perhaps in shops and shows and whatnot, just so you kind of have a little bit better idea what you're looking at. All right, if you're looking for a quick video, by the way, this is probably not going to be the video for you. All right, so first things I would say is go ahead and pick up a book like this one here. It's a really good book, because this book literally takes you through a rundown on markings, stampings, even down to, I saw in some cases talking about the scratches, finishes on the slide that you may see. So that book is unbelievable. I mean, the amount of things that are listed, and that's where it gets crazy with these things. I mean, the amount of detail, I mean, they're counting the checkering lines and stuff on grips, and way beyond anything I was looking for. So for me, I just wanted something that's a cool piece of history that was pretty much all correct. I didn't want a Arsenal rebuild or a refinished World War II gun. I wanted something, I would say, fresh right off the field kind of deal. All right, for starters, one thing I know is with the Colt, you're going to see these type of roll marks and the rampant pony right dead center. All right, during the World War II, or World War I, per se, sorry. The World War I, I believe the rampant pony was right here. Some of the early ones had the circle around it. I'm more of honestly, I like the World War II guns a lot better. Although now this one here being a transitional gun, in a sense, or a very early gun, this one actually has the old sights on it with a U-notch, and I'll give you an example what I mean here. I got a later gun from 1944, I believe. This one here, you can see the gun on the left has the rear sight, which is more of a square notch, versus this one here is a U-notch, which they were obviously still with the old parts there, kind of rehashing them out, or just kind of still putting them on the production line. So that's the other thing, kind of remember when you're going through this. I think, it's like Ken Hackathorn made a good point. First part's in the bin where the last part's to leave. So, so you got to take things in consideration. Military also, they didn't care about collector value or anything like that. So we're definitely, you never know what you're going to get. So the roll marks right there, you can see the rampant pony moved on over to the middle during World War II. And also the property stamp is not over here like it would be in World War I. They moved the property stamp to over here right above the serial number. You can see it right there, United States property. That marking right there, you see where it's worn, comes from when they were in the holster. Here they got a vintage holster here by this one here is a Grayton and Knight holster. This button right here, and you can tell it's old, but it's brass. On the inside, there's a spot here where it's patched. They actually patched it over now. What that is, that little spot there wears right there. And that's what causes a lot of that. Little shiny spots on these guns. All right. There's another inspection mark right here, the cross cannon inspector's mark. All right, now if the gun has been at all touched by an arsenal, you'll see another string of numbers, usually right around this area. They'll indicate either you know, SA or RIA or any of the arsenal rebuild facilities that would have done them and rebuild the gun or something, or you know, any kind of other kind of rebuilds or fixings that they would do. All right, now Colt inspector would be the GHD. Now there are some earlier ones, I believe, like a WB or whatnot, so they're really different ones that would be. But you'll see usually GHD. That's usually the most common that you will see. And of course, the coinciding with the checkered slide stop there, and thumb safety, and a wide spur hammer. That was a proper for the World War II, early World War II Colts. They did kind of change them towards the end. Here again, another much later war gun, and you can see where they narrowed it down. It's not as wide. And also, what I noticed for World War II, they did bevel these a little bit. They're not quite as long as the ones from World War I, which would be a cause for hammer bite. Also, of course, with the change that they did, they extended the grip safety on these. Now, since we're in this area of the gun, you'll see the mainspring housing with the arch in it. That would be correct for World War II. The Colt was the ones that were checkering theirs. And I believe some of the, I want to say some of the Union switch and signal ones were checkered as well. But Colt was the ones that were doing the checkering. Now, the more common one that you'll see would be the serrations, like that. That would be the more common of the bunch that you'll see. But if you got a Colt, usually, you know, not all the time. I mean, sometimes it's people get real crazy with this. But generally, when I see them, at least when I'm looking for them, if I see a Colt World War II, I want to see the checkered mainspring housing. Because honestly, this part alone, if you're going like eBay and whatnot, and you're seeing just this mainspring housing with the loop and the checkering, and it's World War II, it's just, I mean, you're going to break out a couple $100 I've seen for these things. It's really stupid. All right, the grips. You'll notice, one thing I noticed on this one here, you'll see there's no border around the grip where the screw enters. And here we'll bring out the other one again for a comparison. You'll see the border around that. I believe pre-border is definitely going to be the sign of earlier guns. Now the other thing about the grips, these phenolic type resin grips, of course before that they were wood, but this is the kind of phenolic resin they were using, and you can see that beautiful color that is very difficult to reproduce. If the person that's selling one of these and the grips look really like a kind of a lighter brown color, those are probably repops, because the original grips will probably run you a little bit of cash. The real popular ones, the real hard to find ones, would be the hollowbacks. Now you won't be able to see it much down in there, but these are the cross section grips. The book will talk about them. If you reverse them, and you'll see they're hollowed out without a cross section. That's an early hollowback grip, and we're going to definitely command some serious cash. All right, this one here is, like I said, this one's an earlier gun, earlier 40s. It's going to have what they call a milled trigger, and you can see that. Hopefully they'll focus in there. You can see that trigger is a little bit different. It's milled versus the stamped trigger. And I'll go ahead and see if I can get them both to focus in on them. Here's a stamped trigger. The one on the bottom here would be stamped, and the top one there would be the milled. And I'll show you a little secret. And one of the things is on the stamped ones, they're rounded off. They're a little bit more rounded off right here. I'll take a little holder right here. They're kind of rounded off right here, and a lot of times you'll see this little space. See it right there. There's a little space, and you can see it on both sides. A little bit of a space there. And with the milled ones, you won't see that. It's not really there. And it's more of a sharper edge right there. Of course, with the checkering there. So nothing wrong with the stamped triggers or anything, but it's just another change or something else that was done during that time versus the much earlier guns versus the older. And of course, the finish can change too. This one's got more of a darker greenish olive color, where the other ones had a more of a lighter, more of a shade of gray with the kind of olive color. And I believe that olive color came from, that greenish color came from a lot of the parkerizings or oils. So, all right, one other thing we're going to show you, which is this is more or less referring to the Colts rather than the other ones, because I haven't seen the other ones marked this way. It's mostly always the Colt that's marked. You'll notice obviously the Colts had the patent dates and everything. The other ones would have just listed the company that made it, be it Remington Rand, which is the most common, or Union Switch and Signal, or Ithaca Gun Company, and of course they're going to have their own inspector marks. This other one here that I've been having for a supporting act is a Remington Rand, manufactured, like I said, this is a 1944 gun or so. It's going to have a different inspector mark. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it right there. It's going to say FJA, and I believe that is Franklin J. Atwood, would be the inspector for the Remington Rands and the Ithacas, because those were done up in New York area. All right, and again, the Colts, again, would be the GHD, which is Guy H. Deary, or the WB, or there might even be another one, I think, out there as well. Again, I'm not a serious serious student of history on these things. But one other thing I want to show you, and this is mostly pertaining to the Colts, we're going to pop the slide off here, all right? And there's actually a couple of things we'll look at while we got this thing apart. The plug, the barrel plug here, the our recoil spring plug, it's got a little dimple right there. That's usually what that did, was actually held onto the spring. Mine's a little worn after, I think it would be too, after being made in 1942. All right, so we're going to move that over, pop that through, and we're going to move the slide off this thing. All right, we'll go ahead and remove the barrel. The Colt barrels were stamped Colt 45 Auto right here on the bottom of the, if you've got the barrel in the slide, you'll see there, nothing there. And I think here we'll actually show you. Yeah, I think this one must have a different, that one must have a high standard barrel, because high standard made the most of them, and high standard are marked HS, where the Colts were marked right here. Colt 45 Auto right there. Of course, with the proof stamp right there on the bottom, and you can see just all the tooling marks and everything. These things were made for winning a war, and not so much a fit and finish, a collector's market. So, all right, so that's one thing. There's a lot of G stampings that are all over the gun. See, down in here, you probably won't be able to see it too well, but there's a G stamped right there, coinciding with a fairly easy to spot G stamping right here on the frame. And the inside here, you can see a better look at that olive kind of dark green color that's pretty awesome on these World War II guns. Okay, so removing the firing pin plate right here, I'm going to push down on that and just get that plate out of the way. Just enough, drop it out of the way so I can get it started, and then I'm gonna just take my hand and put it over there and actually slide the plate the rest of the way off, because I don't want that firing pin to take off. So underneath here is going to be a series of numbers. You'll see here mine's got the numbers right there, right there. Now those numbers are going to match up with your serial number on the slide or on the frame. So those numbers match up, the 85, and the zeros and everything, which is the correct numbers on the slide here. Now that's pertaining to Colt. Colt is the ones that I usually see that did that. And here's the funny thing about mine is those numbers impacted itself onto the back plate here with the same numbers in reverse as they were being impacted this way, or something must have happened, but it transferred the numbers onto this back plate. I mean, is that cool or what? when you got something like that with this kind of a history and being pretty much correct, all correct. So we're going to go ahead and put this thing back together here. But I just thought that was just the coolest thing to have something like that. Is just pretty awesome. So that's kind of, you know, it's kind of a rundown. It's not every little bit of information that you can get on these things. Like I said, if you had a book and all that, you certainly are going to get into it. And there's a 1,000,001 people that know way better than I ever will on these things and what's going on with them. I'm going to actually put a little oil on this thing before we pop it back together, a little ballistol. All right. But there is some serious, extremely knowledgeable people on this stuff that is by far anything that I've shown you. But I just wanted to kind of show you a little bit of the basics if you're kind of looking at these things in shows or whatnot. I kind of just took the leap to get educated a little bit on it because I didn't want to spend the kind of money that it took to get one of these things and not get something that was for say at least more, for the most part, all correct. And because that's kind of hard to say with these things when you say, well, it's all correct, but it's the military. This is the 40s, World War II military. I mean, a lot of these things got switched around. They had parts in bins, washing them in gasoline and whatnot, and putting them back together and getting them out there. This one right here has not been touched. It has not been arsenally rebuilt. The slide and frame is all correct. It is a Colt. And so, it makes it really cool. It makes it really a neat piece of history, and that's what it is for me. It's just all about that historical value, not so much the monetary value, but just the fact that, man, you know what? For the most part, this is an all-correct Colt World War II 1911 that we got right here in our hands, something that survived that, and a good piece of solid American machinery. It really doesn't get better than that. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hopefully maybe it helps you out if you're checking out stuff at a show, like a shop or something. But there you go. Like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.